Connectra creates opportunities for people living with disabilities by providing information, resources, and programming geared towards greater inclusion and quality of life. Check out some of the programs we offer through our online learning platform, Connect Together, including our Service Mondays, where we highlight a local organization or initiative, Wednesday Chair Yoga with Bobby Seal-Kobiski, Thursday Adapted Fitness with Megan Williamson, Friday Rotating Dance Classes hosted by Janice Lawrence and Joanne Cuff, and other initiatives including presentations by the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association's Growable program and our Perspective series. Check out our updated programs calendar on our website, connectra.org, or find us on Facebook at Connectra Society.
Okay, you can start.
Is this where we start?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. It doesn't look like I have the capabilities to do that. We can do it without the PowerPoint presentation, but you're going to miss a couple of cute faces.
I think you can share, like I have enabled screen share.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can figure out how to do this properly. Okay, and then I have my notes on the screen in front of me, so I'm still pointed at the camera. So thank you for having us. My name is Wendy Cox. I'm the Executive Director at the Victoria Disability Resource Center, and with me today is Wendy Brooks. She is a registered social worker and is one of the Information Referral Program coordinators at the center here. So first, who are we? Did the screen change, the slide change? Awesome. Okay, so we were first incorporated in 1990, so we're old, which is great, as a Canadian registered charity. So we rely on funding from the community, private foundations, individual donors, grants, things like that. We are one of 24 independent living centers across Canada. So we have a bit of a voice nationally, which is nice. Our national umbrella organization is Independent Living Canada, formerly known as the Canadian Association of Independent Living Centers. So we're grateful that they shortened that name. We believe in the independent living philosophy. So that promotes and encourages people with disabilities to live independently, make their own choices, and learn from their mistakes. So I do have more of a slide on this, so I'll elaborate a bit more in a little later. So we are a grassroots organization. It's in our bylaws that at least 51% of persons operating the center, so staff on board, are persons with disabilities. We have far surpassed 51%, so we're very proud of that. The majority of staff and people on the board are persons with disabilities, which does help keep us grassroots. So our services are free for persons with disabilities as well as their family and friends. We don't require proof of a disability. It's self-identifying. And people don't need to tell us what their disability is, because basically why they're here is there's a barrier they're facing in the community that they need help with. So that's what we focus on. We also like to avoid labels. Putting labels on people can be damaging and hurtful. So we try to focus on the barriers that the people are facing and rather than the disability itself. Okay, but who are we really? We are a small group of people trying to make a big difference in this community. We say that we work with persons with disabilities, not for. We work with people to enable them to do things themselves. Again, we look at the barriers in the community, so the built environment, the misconceptions, rather than the disability itself. But more importantly, because we're a nonprofit, we have the ability to take the time to actually sit and listen with people. So people can really share themselves, share their experiences, share their frustration, and then hopefully be validated in their feelings and understand that they're not alone, you know, that other people are going through similar barriers. Mostly we love our food. We love to sit around the table and eat together. We have lots of laughs, and we love our office pups. So there's Susie, who is a black and white Shih Tzu. Well, I don't know why that escaped me. And then there's Jasper, who's a tan and white Chihuahua cross. I expect he is crossed with a Jack Russell Terrier because he is a handful. But they're very lovely to have in the office. Very fun. So I said I was going to get into this a little more. So the independent living philosophy, I think that's what I said I was going to get into, is people should have the right to make their own decisions, to take risks, make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, assume the consequences. I mean, this is how most people learn is by trying things and making mistakes and okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again, move forward and be independent. So the center itself does follow 4 guiding principles that Independent Living Center, our national umbrella, sets out for us. So all 24 independent living centers follow these 4 guiding principles. So to be consumer controlled, which is where 51% of people involved in the organization's decision making do have a disability. So currently 91% of our staff, 78% of our board, and 85% of our volunteers all identify as living with a disability. We serve cross disability, so it doesn't matter what type of disability, multiple disabilities. Again, we don't focus on the disability, we focus on the barrier. Be community-based and not-for-profit. So people with disabilities in our community can tell us what issues they're facing. We try to hold community consultations, gather feedback from people with disabilities. We actually have a survey about our services, what we're providing and what we're missing. And then promoting full participation and integration. So supporting and encouraging people to participate in all aspects of life in Canada. So we base everything on 4 core programs. This is close to the last slide here, but this is where I do the majority of the talking. I am going to stop for a little bit and let Wendy Brooks take over some of it, but I'll right at the beginning actually. So we do have 4 core programs: information referral, peer support, skills development, and research and development. And within each of those 4 core programs fall either other programs, projects, or just things we do every single day. So information referral is by far our busiest program. It receives about 650 inquiries a month. That's a lot for 2 part-time staff to take on. So it's designed to provide information, disability related information. Again, we do have Wendy, who's the social worker on site, to assist with applying for PWD. I'm gonna let her speak to that and information and referral in general. So you can stop listening to me talk and then I'll join in a bit. Go, Wendy.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Wendy said, I'm a registered social worker, and as my primary responsibility here at the Disability Resource Center is to assist people to apply for persons with disability assistance. That's my main goal and focus. So in order to assist people to do this, it involves phone contact. During COVID, that was primary phone contact, but now we're seeing people face-to-face. Not everybody's ready for face-to-face yet, but we give people that option. I provide a weekly information session by Zoom for people who are comfortable with using the Zoom application. That's every Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon, and anyone can join. You don't have to pre-register or do anything like that, and anybody can come. It can be people who are thinking of applying. It can be people who are supporting someone to apply. It can be people who are simply interested in what this PWD benefits are through the provincial government. So I'm just going to hold this up. The PWD booklet looks like this, and people get that from the Ministry for Social Development and Poverty Reduction. And because PWD is a form of increased benefits related to the income assistance program, people have to apply for income assistance first if they're not already receiving income assistance. So it is generated through applying for income assistance. And it's one of the things that we talk about in the information session. So in terms of the PWD application, there's 3 parts. There's one part that the individual applying or whoever's supporting them can also write it for them. It just basically gives an idea of what the disabilities are and how they're impacting in a negative way their ability to do daily living activities. And then there's the medical portion. And then my primary work, other than shepherding people and giving advice around making a strong application in those 2 things, my primary one-to-one work is to complete part 3 of the PWD application. It's called the assessor report. And there's other, it can be a person's family doctor, but there's other professions that the ministry accepts. One of those being a registered social worker, registered with the College of Social Workers of British Columbia. So that's the interview and writing piece that I do for people. And the difference between the medical report and the assessor report is that the medical report talks about diagnoses, medications, overall functioning from more of a medical model, whereas I take that information that I get from that medical report and I look at it through the community lens. And so there's questions there about community and different levels of needs, barriers in the community that people need to have recognized as part of the PWD process. So that's how we build strong applications, is to give a high level of detail, to give examples, and I glean that information through the information process. So the application booklet is 24 pages long, all in, and the part 3 that I do, as well as the medical report and the instructions provided by the ministry, ask us to look at and assess through the worst days lenses. So it can be a bit of a struggle for people to need to look at themselves through the worst days. It's a negative lens. There could be other ways and other assessments out there through the social work and medical and psychological and cognitive community, but this is the one the ministry goes with, and we aren't able to. We can certainly make recommendations, but we're not able to tweak it out of the range of what the ministry is looking for. Although those difficulties exist with looking at things through primarily a bad day lens, if we were to look at things through good day lenses, then it might not, in fact, provide a realistic picture of what that person is dealing with in terms of their ability to do daily living activities, from going for groceries to dressing themselves, any number of things. So that's a lot of information to pack into this. What I'm going to do in chat is there's if you're not aware of them yet, I rely heavily, and we talk about them as well as the information in the information session, about the Disability Alliance of BC. They have a wonderful set of help sheets that are written in plain language, and they provide all information on all aspects of PWD, as well as Canada Pension Plan disability applications. So in chat, I'm just going to paste that link, and that link will take you to a page of about 14, 15 PWD help sheets. And on the right-hand side of the margin, there's a tab for Canada Pension Plan Disability. And the reason I mention Canada Pension Plan Disability is that because PWD is an income assistance program, there's ceilings and limits on people's assets, incomes, family income, not individual income. So there may be people, and there are situations where because people have other sources of income, they don't qualify to apply for PWD, in which case they can explore Canada Pension Plan Disability. But I always recommend to people, if they meet the age requirement to apply for PWD, which is between 18 and 65, that they take that avenue first, have it assessed, see if they are under those financial and asset limits, and go with that, because PWD offers medical and dental benefits, whereas Canada Pension Plan Disability does not. So that's my primary piece of work. My colleague Rowan also provides help with people to do Canada Pension Plan Disability and other questions related to services in the community in general for persons identifying with a disability. And so he works Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I work Monday, Tuesday. Rowan doesn't do the PWD application. That's my primary focus. So we kind of split what we're doing and who's going to do what with to meet whose needs. Are there any questions?
Well, I believe there's time at the end too for questions, if anybody has any, and we can provide our contact information if people want to just contact us directly. So thank you, Wendy, for sharing. And on that, I know you mentioned CPPD. We do help people fill out the Canada Pension Canada Pension Disability form as well. That's where Rowan would come in. So that's another pretty important piece. So one of our other core programs is peer support. This really happens daily in most programs. It's not specific to that program, but within that program, we provide group sessions all by Zoom currently, one-on-one, in-person, phone, by Zoom, whatever works best. So during the pandemic, we actually decided to start reaching out to those people who identify with having a disability, just to see how people were faring, making sure people were getting their basic needs met, as well as that, you know, their mental health and wellness was okay as well. So we wound up finding out that more people than we thought were feeling isolated and lonely. So we created the peer outreach program, where we had 2 staff calling thousands of people, which became quite overwhelming. Many people expressed an interest in getting repeat phone calls. So some people got called once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month. We had a list. So it started, I want to say it got out of hand, but it was a lot to look after the peer outreach program, as well as do the other peer support activities. So we wound up creating a training, thing out of to train people with disabilities to be peer support outreach workers. So give people the skills to be able to call people and provide support. So that's just starting. We just created that over this last year. So we are looking for volunteers in BC who are interested in doing the training, which can be done from one's own home. It's very flexible, the training, and then jump in and start being peer supporters. So one of the other core programs is the skills development program. So that's what falls in there mainly is our volunteer skills development program. So This is a program where people want to come in and volunteer for different reasons. They're either newly injured and they're just sort of getting a feel for what it's like to be out in a work environment, or people who are entering it for the first time. So we work really closely with volunteers to find out what their end goal is. You know, like why do they want to be here? What skills do they want to learn? And then we try to help them reach those goals. Fortunately / unfortunately, we're doing such a great job that people are leaving us because they're gaining employment. So win-win-win-lose, but no, it's a wonderful program. It also allows for people with disabilities, and we do have people without disabilities volunteering as well, but for people with disabilities, often it's their first connection with the disability community or with other people with disabilities. So not only are they getting work skills, gaining work skills, but also life and social skills. They're connecting with people who are facing similar barriers in the community and feeling not alone anymore, feeling supported. So it really is a wonderful environment for people to come work. For people without disabilities, it's a wonderful environment for them to work with persons with disabilities to realize that we are just people, we just do things a little differently. So it's an absolutely lovely program. We've also here at the center, we have some tenants. So the Neil Squire Society's Working Together program is here. So we work in conjunction with them quite closely. So our volunteers with disabilities who are interested in taking a step to employment, we can guide them to the Neil Squire Society, and people in the Neil Squire Society looking for employment who want to start with volunteering are recommended to volunteer for us. So it really is a wonderful partnership we have there. And then our last core program is the research and development. And that's where we're always looking for ways to be involved in the community, to make changes, especially attitudinal, and to find out what gaps there are in the community that we can fill. So we've delivered several different programs. I'm going to talk about our two newest, most exciting ones first, and then I'll talk about some of the previous programs, and then I will stop talking, I swear. So our lived experiences around disability, we call it LEAD, is a program where we go into schools and teach youth about what it's like to live with a disability. So we don't want to teach them how hard life is. We want to teach them that people with disabilities, again, are just people who do things a little differently, might look a little different, might use devices that are a little different. So they get, it's very interactive, it's very hands-on. Students learn about the person first language, identity first language, what invisible disabilities versus visible disabilities. They learn the Braille alphabet, the ASL alphabet, and then how to offer help to persons with disabilities in the community. So basically, we want to break down those misconceptions. Often youth or children are told by their parents or adults, like, you know, don't ask questions, don't stare, things like that. But children are naturally curious, and we want them to learn from that curiosity. So we're explaining how it's okay to approach people with disabilities. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask questions, but we can help guide them in a way that is appropriate and that will be received well. So really is a wonderful, wonderful program. Then we've got our disability inclusion and awareness training program. And that originally started as the disability awareness training, where we went in and talked to employers about hiring practices and hiring and maintaining employees with disabilities. So how to create a more inclusive work environment, a more inclusive hiring practice. It was a one-year project, so we were able to deliver it free in the beginning, and we actually had a really hard time giving it away. So then the pandemic hit, and we decided to take another route. So what we've done now is we've changed it, and it's delivered to employees working in the field of customer service. So places like servers, hosts at restaurants, people working in hotels, people working in museums, like anywhere where employees work with persons with disabilities. And we teach them about working with customers with disabilities. So how to provide support, you know, what language to use. They learn about microaggressions, unconscious bias, all of those things. Much higher level than the lived experiences around disability, a little less hands-on, a little less interactive, but still fun. So our goal there is to increase the inclusion of persons with disabilities. So not only do we teach those types of things, but we also look at their built environment and can give them tips on how to reduce barriers. It could be as simple as if you're a restaurant and have your menu available online and have it screen reader accessible. So somebody who's blind can look at the menu themselves, determine what they want before they go to the restaurant, so they don't have to then ask somebody to read them the menu. So giving them that sort of autonomy and independence. And then, so yeah, those are our two newest, most exciting programs. And then a couple others that we've done in the past that fall under the research and development is we had the disability awareness training to employees, code-abled. So it was training for those who identify as female and live with disabilities, learning to code or wanting to learn to code. So it was delivered by a person with a disability. The number of women in the field was low, so we were able to provide a really great learning opportunity of STEM. When I had to write this down, stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they learned the basic concepts of coding in Python. And it really was a lot of fun because we got to bring in some actual devices, Raspberry Pi, and people got to code and set up for noises and lights, and it was a great course. Unfortunately, we were only able to deliver it once, but we do have all the materials, so we're hoping to be able to do that again sometime in the future. We also did art abilities for youth to explore their artistic side in a safe, supportive, and accessible environment. Thanks to funding, we were able to get all of the supplies provided. And I just want to back it up a little bit and talk about the importance of both the lived experience around disability and the disability inclusion awareness training were both developed by persons with disabilities and are delivered by persons with disabilities. I think that's really important to stress, and I need to put that in my notes so I say that first next time. Okay, I think I'm done talking. If Wendy, you have anything to add, let's do it. And I think we can be available for any questions.
Yeah, I can't think of anything to add off the top of my head, but I would be happy to answer questions about certainly about the work we do in information and referral generally, and particularly PWD. I see there's a couple of questions in chat.
Oh. Okay. Where are we? I'm going way up to the top here. So Cindy asks, are your services for people on Vancouver Island or the whole province of BC? We serve primarily the Greater Victoria area or the CRD, but we provide resources for people all across the country. When we can, we do refer to another independent living center, but we are most familiar with our little end of the island for community resources, but we will do research and try to provide information if we can for anywhere else. So I hope that answers your question. So Pat asked, is this also on the slides? The slides haven't been advancing. My apologies. The 4 core programs was the last slide where I did the majority of the talking. If you want more information on some of the programs, you can visit our website or contact us directly, and we can send that out. So the last slide is questions, where I say, if you don't want me to keep talking, don't ask any questions. But so Pat, if we haven't been able to answer that question, get a hold of us and we'll put our contact information in the chat. And it looks like that is it for questions in the chat. Does anybody have any questions you want to throw at us through your video?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Harsha. Hi.
Ma'am, my name is Harsha from India. How to settle in Canada? That means I am a disability person. Your
Sorry,
organization providing any job for myself?
So you're a person with a disability, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And sorry, what was your question?
Your organization providing any job for a person with disability people? I am from India.
My apologies. I still don't understand your question.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, just wait, ma'am. I am from India.
Yes,
I am disability person.
yes.
Your organization providing any job with myself. That means a person with disability people.
So sorry, are you asking if there's any jobs for people with disabilities in Victoria or at the Victoria Disability Resource Center?
I am from India, not Victoria, ma'am. I am from India.
Yeah, you're from India.
Your organization providing any job.
My apologies for not being able to understand. I'm wondering if anybody else is understanding the question and can jump in.
Okay, just wait, ma'am.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question a little better. I guess my question would be, are you interacting with us from India? Or are you in Canada?
Okay, ma'am. Your organization providing any job for a person with disability people?
I'm going to attempt to answer.
Okay.
So thank you, Kasara. So we don't provide jobs for people. That's not one of what mandates that what we do. But if you are interested in getting a job in BC, you can contact Work BC. I will attempt to drop their link in the chat box. They are the main organization in BC that assists persons with disabilities to find employment. I will also put Neil Squire in there as they do work with persons as well, and can provide not only a little bit of training, but they can provide some job support as well as wage subsidy, so that helps offset the employer's costs to hire persons with disabilities. So my apologies while I try and find the link here.
So there's a question from Cindy about youth. Just make sure I'm off mute. There we go. There's a question from Cindy about youth. What age should youth apply to get PWD so that they get it at 18? It doesn't take 6 months in total, but the good news is that they don't have to wait till they're 18 to apply. So in their 17th year, families and friends can, if needed, help youth to get it, to get things set up by applying for income assistance. I mean, they won't be getting any financial benefits before they turn the age of majority, but it'll get set up so that on the 18th birthday, it just turns over. And if they're born in, and for the first partial month, usually, because not all of us are born on the first of the month, they will provide benefits on a daily basis, a per diem basis is what it's also called, and then their benefits kick in the full amount the first month after that. So yeah, if you're working with a youth, you can go ahead and if they're 17, get things going for them so that there's a good amount of time for transition. Right now, for the basic income assistance, the ministry has a mandate, and they are meeting it, is that for the basic portion of income assistance, once a person's applied, they should know the answer about their eligibility in 5 to 10 business days. It's usually faster than that. Ministry also indicates that once the PWD portion is done, it takes up to 3 months to get a decision. That's pretty far to the outside. What really happens is it's about the number of people asking for the service versus the number of people with government who are making the decisions, the group that makes decisions. And right now, what people are telling me is they're hearing about their eligibility within 4 to 6 weeks of providing their completed PWD booklet that I just showed you, along with all the documentations. So they're going to be asking them for, if they're working, they're going to be asking them for pay statements. They're going to be asking them for bank accounts, proof of where they're living, basic ID, all of that stuff. That stuff isn't provided to the ministry. They will not take it to the next step of assessing it. So all of that groundwork needs to be done, and to provide all the supporting documentation in order to advance to applying for PWD. All in all, it's a guesstimate, but it looks like with people I'm working with right now, if they don't have delays in applying for income assistance, let's say it just marched along, probably, depending on the medical doctor's availability to do the report, it's looking like about 2 to 3 months, depending on how quickly all of that stuff total is factored in and documents provided. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Wendy. We may have somebody still interested in localizing the question. Oh, is your program similar to volunteer access? Let's jump. There's a similar program in our mainland for persons with disabilities. I'm not sure what program volunteer access is or who runs it, so I can't see if it's similar. But you know what, Pat, if we can look, oh, Volunteer Victoria. Oh, okay, so Volunteer Victoria helps connect people with volunteer opportunities. We are a member of them, so they send us people who are interested in volunteering in an office environment or with us directly. So we don't connect people with other volunteer opportunities. We give people volunteer opportunities here in the office, with some opportunity to do some volunteering for us from home. As for what's available in the Lower Mainland, I am going to drop a link in there to the Richmond Center for Persons with Disabilities. They are one of the 24 independent living centers across Canada, and they should be able to direct you.
Hi, am I able to ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm familiar with the Richmond Center for Disability. I live in Richmond and they're great. Love what they do. What I'm trying to figure out is that the supported employment field is doing so many great things for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. How can we broaden that scope to also include other people with disabilities? So whether they're physical acquired disabilities like a back injury, or someone perhaps that has a hidden disability like mental health issues, episodic acquired health issues like cancer, someone recovering from illness. There's a whole other scope of people that would really benefit from what this program is about. And I'm just wondering, have you guys thought of that in finding ways to do that?
Well, that's one of the reasons we originally created the disability awareness training, to go in and talk with employers and encourage them to hire people with disabilities. Not only encourage them, but talk to them about the benefits of it and how to be more inclusive. But again, there was a lot of resistance. It's really systemic in so many ways, and hard to get over that hump. So when when working with people with disabilities too, I mean, there's so many facets for disclosing your disability to an employer, whether or not you should and how to best do it. It's not a straightforward question. Sorry, you're right. It's a huge barrier for so many people. There's so many people with disabilities out there who are able to work and don't get the opportunity either because their disability is seen and feared, or not seen and feared, or absolutely misunderstood.
Yeah, and I guess you're kind of going at it from two different directions. There's the community and the environment where you could encounter discriminatory attitudes or barriers to accessing the physical space. And then there's also the person's perceptions and views about their own capacities and competencies around engaging in certain activities. And that confidence, motivation piece, I think, is where volunteering can be so valuable, you know, and helping people figure out what they can do and what their abilities are, and kind of do a bit of a test run around, you know, scheduling and transportation and all the stuff that can really make it difficult to commit to employment. But I find like volunteer roles, they're a little bit more flexible and forgiving sometimes, less intimidating.
Yeah, they are. But yeah, it is a really great place for a lot of people to start volunteering, to just find their own work-life balance, what their abilities are, what kind of accommodations they might need, you know, and to gain that confidence too, of like, wow, yes, I can do this and I can learn this, and then put that forward to an employment situation.
Yeah, and just, you know, encouraging volunteer associations to be more welcoming to people with disabilities, because I think sometimes they feel a little intimidated, that it's going to be a lot of work, that they're going to have to make all these changes, that it's going to be disruptive. And they just don't really seem very enthusiastic sometimes about that prospect. And I think that can be conveyed sometimes in their way of interacting with that person, even from the initial intake, right?
Absolutely. And afraid of maybe hurting feelings and not holding them to accountability, or helping them fix their mistakes and actually learn. You know, there's a lot of, even in the volunteer sector, afraid of telling somebody with a disability that they're doing something wrong, whereas you would if the person didn't have a disability. You just have to approach it the right way, probably pretty much the same way. You know, HR works the same amongst everybody, for the most part. So yeah, it's that treating people with disabilities like they are everybody else, because they are. Just do things differently.
And is that what your training program offers? Are you offering it to volunteer associations, or is it more for potential employers in sort of the paid work sector?
We focus on the person who has a disability that is interested in volunteering. So they come in and volunteer for us, and we help equip them with those skills.
Right. But that program that you have, the disability, sorry, what is it called? The
disability awareness training.
Right.
Yeah. So we weren't setting people up with employment. We were just going in and talking with employers about generally hiring people with disabilities.
Right. But would you offer that to a volunteer association to encourage them to engage volunteers with disabilities?
Yeah, we don't offer that anymore. It's now the disability inclusion and awareness training, where we go in and talk to the employees, but employers are there as well. So when we say employees, it's everybody who works there. So we don't focus on, so if a volunteer organization wanted that training, absolutely, we would go in and do it. And this is how we would, you know, work with your volunteers with disabilities. So, and that's where we do sort of customize that training for whoever is requesting it.
And have you done that yet? Has there been a request or any interest in that happening?
Yes. Yeah, we have done it, and we've got a few more set up. So we started it as a pilot project earlier this year, and have done several and got some great feedback. And moving forward, it is now a fee for service.
Right. And this is with volunteer associations that you're doing this training?
We're doing it for any organization or any business that has staff or employees who are working directly with the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is a different dynamic with the volunteer association, isn't it?
It's a different dynamic everywhere. It really depends on who their customers or clients are and what service they're providing, and that's where we tailor it. So yeah, it's quite different.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. If you'd like a longer conversation about this, Pat, I did put my email in the chat box, and we can arrange a time to have a conversation. I'd be happy to do that. It sounds like we've got some great ideas that might help enrich our current program and maybe future ones as well. So thank you.
And I also put my email It's a shared email. Both Rowan and I see it. I put that in chat as well. So if you have PWD questions, you can shoot me an email, and other questions you can shoot Rowan an email. One of us will answer it depending on what the topic is.
And on that, I'm going to include contact information on one of these screens, one of these slides. So this is how we learn, by making mistakes. So yeah, are there any other questions? Okay, Kasar, I believe we'll just hand it back to you then.
Okay. So we can just end the call now. Oops. Yeah. Okay, so I'll end the call now. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You guys have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.